Alright everyone, welcome back to Cody's Lab. So I've come down a few canyons over from the ranch, and as you can see, there's loads more trees over here. We're actually in the pinyon juniper forest. We've got a juniper here and a couple of pinyon pines right in front of us. It's these pinyon pines that I'm interested in today because they produce edible nuts, and unfortunately they are actually extinct at the ranch right now, and I'd really love to bring them back. This particular species of tree is Pinus monophylla, or the single-leaf pinyon pine. Now it got that name because it has something that's really unusual for pine trees. You see, if you look at this, the needles do not come out in clusters. See that, where it contacts the branch? Normally pine trees have clusters of needles of 2, 3, or 5, but this particular species just has a single needle coming out. And I think it's the only example of that in the world. Given that these trees are from very arid parts of Utah, Nevada, and Arizona, I suspect that adaptation is somehow to conserve water. I'm not entirely sure though. So now, if we look up at the cones, you can see they produce very large cones, and I think there's actually some nuts in that cone still, which I was not expecting to see, because usually the insane rodent posse would have got them by now. Let's see if I can get that cone down. Oh yeah. So assuming I can get this in frame, here's the cone. See if I can get some of those nuts out of there. It looks like they're empty. But look at the size of that seed. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, it looks like you got some insect damage there. So assuming I'm unable to find any viable nuts, which is likely this time of year, I need to find another way to propagate these trees. I thought about going and digging up some saplings, and actually I did try that, but after digging and digging, these roots go very deep. They're very good at finding water, and so that's not really going to be practical. Someone told me though that I could take cuttings and propagate them that way, basically take a clone of this tree, and I'm going to give it a shot. I'm just going to reach under here and get a couple of branches. I'm going to take it home, split them off into individual pieces, stick them into some rooting hormone and then into some sand, and see if I can get them to take root. I've never been able to root an evergreen, but yeah, it's worth a shot, right? Oh yeah, look at that pile of pine cones. Definitely going to get a cutting off this tree. Alright, so here's the bundle of branches that I cut. I tried to get some branches off of different trees to increase the genetic diversity. So, let's see how that goes. And as you can see, I've cut the top off of a bottle of water. I'm going to stick this down in there so that hopefully they don't dry out as much on the way home. So, there you go. This little bouquet of tree. And this thing smells amazing. So we're back at the lab. I've got some polycarbonate food trays here, which I got for another project and never ended up using. I think they'll be just perfect for this. The rooting medium that I'm going to have go inside there will consist of sand, spregum moss, and some mycorrhizae root inoculant. So this is the fungus which is beneficial to the pine tree's roots. Helps get phosphorus to the tree. So I'm going to mix all these together. So now I have a well-draining mixture of equal parts moss and sand. So this plastic tray has a little insert here which provides an airspace at the bottom. And I'm going to take advantage of that to help add airflow to the roots. I'm going to just put a rag here to keep the sand from going down into the little holes. And I will insert a piece of airline down underneath of it. So now for the sandy moss mixture. I ended up drilling a hole in the side of the plastic so that the airline can come in and make a good seal there. So this medium is a little bit too dry, so I'm going to mist it down. Might even pour some water in, just to bring up the moisture level. I don't want it dripping, but I do want it pretty wet. With that wet, I'm going to draw some trenches where I'll be sticking the cuttings. So I've got my knife, a rag with some alcohol to sanitize it with, the rooting powder, and just a glass of water to moisten the cuttings. So I'm looking for pieces that are about 5 inches long or shorter. Right there. At least I'll probably get better at cutting. And I'm going to pull off some of these needles. So I wind up with something like this. Yeah. I think they said to damage the stick a little bit. That's probably fine. Alright. So, put in water. I'm not sure if I need to soak it in water or not, but here we go. Got some rooting powder on there. Stick it in the sand. There's our first tree. Now I get to do about 100 more of those. So I ended up trying one of the needles, tasting it, and it resembles a orange peel in flavor. I was not expecting that because pine trees usually, they have a pine taste. Like this has a pine taste too, but it's really citrusy. And they taste more acidic too, almost like ascorbic acid. In fact, I ought to look it up. It probably does have a lot of vitamin C in its needles. Alright, the little cuttings are in their tray. I'm just going to water them in a little bit. And now to add the lid. That should all be set up now. Put it under a light. Hook that up to an air hose. Away they go. I'm also going to be trying to root some other trees. This is an Austrian pine, which seemed to grow pretty well at the ranch, though it's not native, as well as some of these juniper. I've got some juvenile juniper branches, some kind of transitioning, and even a few adult branches there. And we'll see which one roots the best. So right away I can tell you that these juvenile juniper branches are kind of hard to work with. First of all, they're very prickly. Even with the gloves on, sometimes I get a nasty jab with it. And second, you've got all these little spines across its, the branch here. And when I try to scrape those off, sometimes they come off, sometimes it just takes the bark with it. So, you see right there, I just girdled it. So I'm not sure if that'll be viable anymore. Just trim it down a little bit. There we go. Don't get in the water. See, I still got some spines on there, but I guess it's not going to be that much of a problem. And just, also they're not as stiff, so I can't just shove them into the sand. I have to make a hole first. There you go. Alright, here's what I've got set up so far. Obviously this is not the permanent location. I'm just putting everything together on the floor here so I can see how it looks. I've got two 40-watt LED lights, and they're just a few inches away, producing, let me get the lux meter out here, about 30,000 lux, which is about 1/3 the brightness of noonday sun, which is plenty bright enough to grow these plants. I've also got an aquarium air pump, and I haven't plugged in the timer, but you can see the timer is set to come on half an hour at a time, twice a day. Just get a little bit of oxygen down into the roots. I don't want to run it for too much longer than that because it'll dry out the chamber. And we really want the humidity in there to be about 100%. They don't have the capability of being able to handle much water loss. So anyway, here's the single leaf pinyon pine. I've got 62 cuttings in there. And then over here, let's pull this out so you can see a little bit better. So a little bit more of a variety. I've got the Austrian pine, some more of the single leaf pinyon, the juniper branches of, kind of the more juvenile ones, and the older ones over here. And I've got some emerald green arborvitae. We're going to try to root those, as well as some of the two-leaf pinyon from Colorado. And of course I've got some extra space here which I can grow some other things. I'm thinking some more of the juniper and maybe even some Douglas fir. Let's put that back on before it dries out. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. It's going to be a little while before any of these take root. So I've been told it could be more than a year. So I'm not sure if I'm going to post this video now or when I've actually got something happening. But at any rate, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.